let's get started with the usability stuff. Specifically the 62366, which is the standard which basically gives you your usability requirements. Based on like my last video calls with the risk management, this will be structured a bit differently in the sense of that we actually get stuff done first and then create the documentation later, because I think that's a better format to actually learn things and actually get stuff done. So before we get started, let's just quickly take a look at what is mentioned in the 62366 and in which documents. Hopefully we already cover some things. So on the website, you actually see this mapping table. And again, like all other templates, this is in the template section. So if you go to openregulatory.com, in the tools and templates section, click templates, and then you can actually scroll down to the 62366-1:2015. So that's the current usability standard, which we are actually looking at. And like for many of the standards for which we have templates, there's this mapping document which maps the sections in the standard to whatever document we have which we think is fulfilling the requirement in the standard. So for example, you have the first section 411 in the standard, which says like, yeah, you need a usability engineering process. And based on our mapping table, we fulfill this in the SOP integrated software development. So in our case, the SOP integrated software development has certain process steps which qualify as a usability engineering process. So that's the idea. And then if you would actually head over to this SOP integrated software development, which we find, oh God, where is it? Here, where? Wait. Okay. You find it here and you actually have a more fine-grained table. So here the 62304 requirements, so that doesn't concern us. We're looking for the 62366, this table, and you can see, great, 411 is actually handled in section all sections of the document. So you would just have to read the entire document and show that to your auditor and kind of have a rough idea of what this 411 section in the standard is about to be able to explain how the stuff mentioned in this SOP fulfills the usability engineering process requirement in the standard. So that's the basic setup of this mapping table. And I think it's really important to go through this mapping table initially, even though it's extremely boring, but it's kind of valuable because you will notice that a lot of things are already covered in other documents which we've already created. So I won't go through the things which we'll be covering later, like we'll be looking at our usability evaluation plan, report. We'll also have like a protocol and stuff. I just want to look at some other things which we don't have to cover, because so you won't be asking questions later like why didn't he cover like 412? And so for example, we don't cover 412 because it's about like risk control for user interface design, because you can already cover that in your risk table. So in your risk table, you would mention risks, which we actually did in the risk course. You would mention risks relating to your usability. So if people couldn't use your software properly, I don't know, things would happen and it would explode or make wrong diagnosis, whatever happens for your software, but you would mention it in your risk table. And so you don't need a separate document just to fulfill section 412 of the standard. And I think this is the general theme, that like try to write your documents in a way in which they fulfill multiple requirements from multiple standards, because otherwise you have this huge mess. Same thing for use specification. So your use specification is kind of like your software requirements. So if you just say like, okay, your software requirements, which we've defined in the 62304 course as a list of things which your software does, if that kind of covers your user interface, for example, with mockups or wireframes, you've already fulfilled probably 5.1 and partially 5.2, right? Because you've like identified user interface characteristics, done a use specification, and the safety and potential use error stuff again is in your risk table. So I think there's a general theme here, right? Like if there's something in this requirement which can be fulfilled with a document you already have, you should for sure try to reuse that document for it. Also, this user interface specification 5.6 is done in your software requirements list again. So I don't have to go into like too much detail here, but I think you generally get the idea. So we'll only be focusing on the actual very usability engineering 62366 specific documents and activities which we have to do here. All the other activities are covered in other videos, even if they fulfill some parts of the 62366 standard which we're talking about today. All right, so that's hopefully enough to get started. I promise that it'll be slightly more interesting in the next few videos and you won't fall asleep. So let's not talk too much about mapping tables, but instead already get done with documenting some stuff about the COVID app, which we will be imagining a magic COVID diagnosis app. All right, well, see you in the next video.